So, how do you make a Fangame scary? Oh, hey, seriously, when's the last time any one of these games actually freaked you out? Predictability totally kills horror, and especially in this franchise, you can cultivate a creepy atmosphere and cook up some killer designs, but in a series hinged on the hard-coded feature of repeating the same uninterrupted gameplay loop, the extent at which you'll find yourself truly spooked out lies in the effectiveness of the anticipatory factor. What gives FNAF Wandering power out, or when you're looking down a hallway in FNAF 4, that sense of uneasy, unpredictable tension, just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I feel like I found one of the tightest examples of that in a Fangame yet. Graveyard Shift of Freddy's, first ever published April 27th, 2024 by There's No Stakes, a reimagining of the first Freddy's game. And something's feeling strange. At first glance, interestingly, aesthetically inspired by FTD's FNAF ransomware video. People keep injecting that thing's DNA into their own FNAF projects like an attention deficit homunculus. But that's because it works. Weirdness and unpredictability go hand in hand. Perfect for combating the areas where horror seems to choke most in these things. The mood amplified by Jesus, his legal name. Freddy Bear's eatery and fun, where your wildest dreams come true, the swapped bow ties, Foxy as a wolf. These are all scrapped or early concepts changed out before FNAF 1's release, and even if it wasn't intentional, I'd totally understand if it was to push the eerie atmosphere. Early beta content can emit weird, otherworldly vibes in the right context. Born from a point in time, the finished product you're so familiar with feels so completely alien to, even with the dials only tweaked in the wrong direction a tad. Ironically, for a game cut with its own beta junk, including the remnants of its pre-ransomware revival, still a FNAF 1 reimagining, but definitely a project that would have stuck a bit more faithfully to the first game's style, closer to the kind of thing you see at a GarageTube game. A change definitely for the better given the gameplay demo, holy freaking atmosphere. The final aspect to catch my eye, the odd demonic imagery of Freddy Bear, front and center in an ominously captioned poster performing the satanic as above so below gesture. The idea that whatever happens in the spiritual realm is reflected right back on Earth. An inquisitive choice for a series already themed around angry souls and a Christian afterlife. And combined with the real intent to focus on something that's a stickler to the unabashedly weird, to produce a product that feels almost as if it shouldn't exist. Graveyard is a full-course meal of concepts, and my stomach's just trying to reach the mouse, which is disgusting and impossible. How did it do that? As the Graveyard Shift cools, the game greets us with a brief review of what's to come in an elaborate series of warnings and explanations. Clicking to accept the consequences, bringing us to the menu, and things are a mess. The visual fractured formalities struggling to stay coherent, the alarming off-center demo tag, the twitching logo. Things are abrasive and kind of unsettling here. The calamity audibly backed by what sounds like a distorted phone line, peppered with static cuts and dial tones. I love how even the friggin' config menu abides by the theming with a super utilitarian UI, down to the way your cursor splays over each option. A sharp switch flick sound for each feature you toggle, of which your viewing experience is customizable as hell here. Always a nice touch. Ow, what the fuck? Anyways, invited as newcomers to play with us, we're brought to Shift 1, a radio toggle burst aesthetic to accompany. Huh, that's interesting. No lives compared to the demo footage? Yeah, another canned FNAF feature brought over to Graveyard, seemingly pulled from the game last minute, despite the incredible coincidental parallel, isn't genuinely scrapped, the live system only being pulled from regular gameplay to act as an extra challenge in just grave danger mode, given its difficulty. Actually part of the reason behind the removal of the Advent minigame appearing between nights that would have served a similar functionality to FNAF 4's Plus Chap segments, dishing out fresh life as opposed to a 2-hour skip, taking one if you fail. Several seconds after that though, we're tossed into a very generous amount of closet space, so nice of them. Boxed in by gritty concrete brick and surrounded by office junk and chunky tech. Just like I like them, things are deliciously claustrophobic. I could have like 7 panic attacks in here. We ain't left to go crazy on our own for way too long. Graveyard's phone guy butting in to explain our nightly duties. Hey, curious choice here. The first time I've ever seen movie after included in any kind of fan game, let alone movie, anything. Sparky's disembodied head, hidden Nebraska poster in your office, Sparky's undisembodied head, even the blown out Toreador March recording blasting over the speakers from the movie trailer incorporated. I would say the typography of the buffet signage too, but it's literally just a straight reference to that one piece of Freddy's branding from years back. Both drawing inspiration from the same late 80s Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza logos. Nevertheless, the FNAF movie influence is definitely apparent and maybe a strange inclusion to some, but hey, I'd argue this stuff's just extra spice in the crockpot of near familiarity. Anything like that to boost the uncanny offness of the place, especially something like Sparky, based on his movie design here, but by proxy reminiscent of his popularized hoax appearance during early day FNAF, is a welcome and fitting addition. Speaking of, the lights and door system of the first game, like everything else, totally reimagined here, with a single push to activate light source out and ahead of your office, and a metal power-locking roller shutter, fastened at full length by a hydraulic system. Hey, it's a grounded exclamation for once. Dragging the handle down locks it automatically. I'm not kidding when I say this is probably the most satisfying door-esque mechanic I've ever seen in one of these things. It's fluid, responsive, and your first and only line of defense against the enemy. Rude. Yeah, the stars of the show. Bunny, Freddy Bear, he's yellow. Chica, and introducing Captain Wilfred Wolfgang, the canonical arch-rival to the gang, with original characters Barry Bat, Wolfgang's seasonal Halloween replacement, and drummist Sheriff Slithers hanging out behind Chica's spot on stage, Barry currently unseen during play. The game's demo only stretching 2 shifts, you're only ever stalked down by Bunny and the chicken tenders, activated 1 shift after the other. All starting off with looking real loopy. Bunny, the more straightforward of the two, will make a straight beeline from on stage straight to your office, except for when he doesn't. There's no concrete linear path for him to follow, but it's a damn small building, and when you could easily lose a guy in. Keeping track of him, basically a total necessity, cause your defense only accounts for one of 3 possible entrances to your office, your back turned on 2 hidden doorways, 6 and 3 o'clock of you, making this more of a game of prevention than pure defense. That means grabbing Bunny's attention externally with the power of misdirection. You gotta distract the bun with an alarm over the room's loudspeaker to direct him. Not exactly FNAF 3's audio mechanic, but like enough version of that. Only really steering Bunny down a certain path to guide him to your window if he's ever facing down the wrong route, which the game will prompt you to recognize all throughout Shift 1, so no worries there. And while, yeah, you will get visual feedback each time you use it, spamming it too much will sod him off to a point where he won't even respond. The ability to ring the alarm at all in most cameras acting almost as a red herring for any camera that isn't the 2 designated, where Bunny can veer away from the scene. So many worries there. And Chica dropped into play second shift in. While the way she works is not as intuitively obvious to break down, it's at least the more simple to master. She is ambivalent to the audio, instead hopping around the eatery, occasionally doing 100 in a school zone. Jesus, careful! Yeah, just throw the shutter down, you'll be golden. You know, like Chica. And that's oh, the cupcake. The cupcake! It'll come out the vent when it wants. Its name is Cream. Fit with its own AI, it'll hop into the vent in the camera behind you in the office, smacking the alarm to get rid of it, but Cream is only a little guy, they can kill me with their disgusting little tendrils, I don't give a shit. And, so far, across the board, the balancing's pretty fantastic. Tough enough that you're always feeling that constant sense of resistance against the potential, all while the game keeps the mechanics diverse and interesting, each creature synergizing well together. You're always on your toes here, it's always sick to see. But it's not just these crazy cuckoos actively working against you. It's the finicky-ass camera, too. Graveyard sporting a reinvention of the classic FNAF CCTV system that, goddammit, I love. While some control remains in the form of your human right to swivel, the new system, Honeysoft Home Security, takes as much of it away as possible, not only effectively solving the ever-present issue of trying to coerce the player into making use of as many cameras as possible, but really forcing you to strategize, with the option to toggle the cycle speed to scan through the lots, rush to one camera, sit and process another. And having said that, it is still technically possible to pause on the cameras, in a sense. Pulling down the cameras and letting the reset timer breathe a bit actually recovers the time spent on the last camera, allowing you to view it for longer. This was entirely entirely intentional and there's no stakes part, upping the ante and the scare factor. And I really think it adds to the panic, knowing that if you need a specific camera fast, there's a chance you'll be flipping through up to 6 till you land. You gotta strategize here. Fit with the oddly formal font on screen and the incredible sound design choice of a cuckoo clock chime whenever you mess with the camera speed, the same audio, some crossbox blast actually, even kinda sharing the same stop and go concept. Sorry, I just love traffic. But because of details like that, things are weird and different and odd, functionally switching things up mechanics wise, and again, contributing to that whole weirdness factor I'm after here. Jesus, sorry, my internet's a bit shit today. And hey, so is yours stupid? The camera's counterbalanced by the router tertiary defense. There ain't much to it, sometimes the video just looks like broken glass, kicking the thing on and off again a few times to restore the connection. And you'll figure out all of this through inferring some tightly written call scripts.
Just keep all that garbage in mind and you'll be set. If you didn't, well, too bad.
Raglan, pretty brief and utilitarian in his dialogue, but not to the point I ever felt like I was getting, like, talked at. Captions too, not that I'd even call them necessary. The delivery's pretty clean and even captures some of Matthew Lillard's kinda strange intonations on some words.
Been shut down for years.
Just can't bring himself to let it go yet.
Yeah, I guess that's about it.
As I'm sure you're aware, I wanted to call you tonight to help you settle in. I'm not going to waste your time, so let's cut straight to it.
And with the addition of both pre-night and post-death loading screen tips, the latter enemy-specific to once you perished, I seriously felt like I understood things pretty effortlessly for the most part, and really, as it stands, this demo as a whole is a fairly intuitively eerie experience, my instincts guiding me in some places my muscle memory didn't have to. Cause, dude, this conked-up industrial environment and its inhabitants give me the creeps. These are some of the most consistently creepy designs I have seen in a Fangame ever. I mean, you've already gotten a good look at Bonnie. What makes it work for me is the same element that makes it work in FNAF 1. Truly, maybe even more effectively than that game, hitting the sweet spot right between cutesy and believably kid-oriented during the day, and looking downright freaky at night in the right lighting. And yeah, those painted-on, wide-eyed peepers plastered all over the stage do not help, but sure do give off the aura of family establishment doing their damned best, but instead managing to imply that the walls are watching you. That uncanniness shared seamlessly with the designs of the animatronics. They don't behave or move like animatronics. They bend and contort with gross organic eyes fit with features that feel like they're imitating an animatronic. Maybe not so unlike the way that beta content can feel like a gross imitation of the game you're so well versed in. The fake plastic eye caps that disappear after dark, the suspicious looking costume seams stretching to hide whatever's under the skin in contrast to FNAF 1, the total lack of any visible electronic features, yeah, there's not a lick of robotics in sight here. Though despite my meat suit theory, not all of these guys are so bad visually, like, hey, take Barry Bat looking cute in a skirt and boots, simply cloaked in shadow, to the way Freddy Bear twists his body in ways no animatronic should, to Sheriff Slither's wide-eyed, yawning gape, each creature here exerting their own flair. Man, Freddy especially, those gums and teeth that are just about the right size to pass as goofy cartoon chompers that also double as very human teeth at the right angle without making it look obnoxious. I know he ain't even in the damn thing yet, but I really appreciate the game having a little more focus on the dude and really hammering in that stark intimidation the dude harbors in FNAF 1. Most games, fan and official, seeming to lose that aspect. Like, Jesus, Graveyard tries to freak you out with the guy near instantly, making a pre-game appearance with an event occurring if the main menu's left dormant for too long, as a throwback to Five Nights at Treasure Island. Rude. Yeah, he's got that sinister Mickey look to him, intentional or not, perfect for another fitting mini tribute to FNAF's early days. And on the topic, I'd argue the jump scares in general here, you come across like an old school screamer. I love him. Definitely feels earned after every shit yourself moment of knowing it's been just a little too long since you last. All my days try being polite. These guys are absolutely cutthroat and animated to reflect, like the behavior of a wild predator, or as Steve Raglan puts it, what happens when I'm quoting the twitching game over screen here, a hypothetical message from Raglan in the event of a very dead you. Michael Schmidt. Eyes torn out, ribcage exposed, hand missing, these things aren't just mindless machines. they're hungry. And check out the opening date here, 1972? Well, Graveyard takes place in April of 2017, the date updating each shift. That's 45 years of operation, and with no bodies visibly present in the location, I think it's telling what the purpose of the playroom hatch displayed after Game Over is for, and I wonder just how full the underneath must be by now. You becoming animal food is not an isolated incident. I suppose, in that sense, giving the graveyard shift far more of a literal meaning. Such a specific choice of words, rabid dogs. That language doesn't signify killer animatronic to me. It sounds a tad closer to the description of a living creature. So I investigated, I did some digging, and found a torn newspaper in one of the game page teasers, transcribed it, and found a passage highlighting someone that's allegedly the reason all of this is here, as real and tangible as it is. That's on behalf of Ruglin, stated he preferred to not be named publicly. Now hey, maybe the obvious answer is Henry, Emily, or Yanan's dad, but I'd like to consider this poster again. As above, so below, a phrase with connections to the spirit realm and the Baphomet. It's not like a stretch to say that these things are anything other than ungodly, after all. Like, dude, that's cool as heck! These kinds of micro-mysteries keep games like this very alive, in my opinion. There's tons of little Easter eggs and evidence lining the cameras to pick up on too. Really gives me familiar vibes to piecing things together in the backgrounds in the first Freddy's game. A genuinely cool touch here. The game always prompting you to look a little deeper. Like, have you also noticed the absence of Captain Wolfgang? Sure, like half the cast aren't even active in the demo, but at least some of them have a stage presence. Wait, I wonder what would happen if one of the characters tried to leave the building. Knowing just how this game is, I'd wager that Wolfgang ain't around no more and that something definitely happened to him. And given the increasing certainty that these creatures damn well sound like they're living demons manifesting as electronic puppets, it's possible for a live animal lost where it doesn't belong in the physical world to easily succumb to the elements, or maybe even cease to exist entirely. Or, I don't know, maybe he just popped a Tesco and got mugged, innit? The end of each shift amplifies the building tension with a distorted, non-diegetic piano-led track, fading in around the last couple hours of the night. Each track name correlating to that shift's most recently introduced enemy. Of the two we do have, they're both similar sounding arrangements, with differences mostly in the instrumentation and mixing choices, both calculated to commence playing at 6 AM on the dot. It's a unique idea, making those last few minutes feel just a tad more impactful. The ends of the second shift bringing us to a fairly familiar looking screen. A severely compressed toy Freddy-esque figure telling you time's up to mark the end of the demo experience, accompanied by a short note from the developer. And yeah, that's all there is to chew on for now, but I just gotta say, this game is good. I'm serious here. Everything from the strange sound design to the generous mix of unsettling imagery to a UI that makes me feel unsafe. Though they did clarify the relative orientation in your orifices, so yeah, sure, actually, I'll follow you into that dark alley. The amount of care put into the details here, immersive visual effects like the improved perspective shader, screen tearing in the camera feeds, film grain, a stupid spooky atmosphere to be stalked in by some equally freaky eldritch horrors, a Fangame story I'm actually interested in for once, the Twygz! It comes across like there's no stake in the Graveyard team actually give a shit, and it really shows. Like, for example, while Freddy Bear's Eatery and Fun, does exist, it ain't a purgatory like a first thought. In a vacuum, the game feels like it takes place in some kind of self-contained universe undone by the laws of natural order. Everything kind of feels like a surrealist nightmare, it's great, including the demonic implications, which show a slightly ridiculous premise, but also so's haunted 550-pound robots that move with the gracefulness of a car tire, so. And again, some of these renders are just flat out creepy, down to the flawlessly pulled off character designs in conjunction with the fact that they're not haunted and can't reason. It's so goddamn cool. Which is promising to see, right? I really don't think I've played many Fangame demos to impress me like this. If you're a fan of creepy indie horror, or the idea of, in my opinion, a damn successful start to a remixed FNAF 1, I'd totally say go for it and give Graveyard Shift of Freddy's a toss. With extra events, the previously mentioned Grave Danger mode, and more characters, yeah, things are looking emerald. I really feel like There's No Stake knows what she's doing with Graveyard. There's a very confident vision here. and I am all for anticipating the final release, as you should yourself. As for brave volunteers of the demo experience, all must heed this warning. If you dare abide by their request when the full game releases, you'll come back for another graveyard shift of Freddy's or never live another day.